Hello, hello. This is Irene with SaugaTalks. Hello, everyone. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube, or listening on major podcasting platforms, please make sure we hear from you because I know how important engagements are, and you know that. We want the audience to grow. We want the audience to take advantage of fabulous conversations I'm having here and my fantastic guests, fascinating guests in tech who are so generous with their time, with their expertise, with their insights. So please, 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 if you like what we're doing here, put the thumbs up. And if you don't like what we're doing here, still do that because maybe other people will find it interesting. Yeah, jokes apart. Exciting conversation today is coming about AI trends and technology career, which is again so many of us interested in, and so many of us still don't know where to start or how to progress. So Smriti Mishra is with me here. Smriti, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here, Irene. And I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine. You are an amazing, amazing expert and leader, Smriti. I know I'm following you on LinkedIn. You have fabulous, fabulous audience out there that is so excited to learn about your steps in a career. You have achievements, but you're so open to share what you know, and this is just amazing. So let's start somewhere with AI trends. AI trends. I ask many of my speakers, right? And I ask them to pick their favorites because there's so much progress going on across industries, across technology platforms, algorithm, any kind of aspect of business or tech we're touching. There is NI in it now. So, what are the top trends you think we should talk about today?
So, I think it's a very important question. And the thing is, like, when it comes to artificial intelligence or technology, there's like so many things happening right now at the same time, and so many of them are super crucial. So, I think it's a nice way to bring in people from different backgrounds with different interest, passion, which helps cover a lot of different topics in general. So something that's like extremely close to me and something I'm very passionate about is actually climate change or like artificial intelligence in the whole environmental area. I have worked on it for the past 2 years, almost a little over 2 years, with Earth Bank, where I was the head of artificial intelligence, and again on some research on like basically similar topics, which was understanding carbon sequestration or the amount of carbon that is stored in a particular biodiversity using satellite images, using some deep learning and some computer vision. And the reason I think it's extremely important is because I think everyone in the world right now understands um, the problem of inflation in general, which kind of stems from climate change, in my opinion, because of climate change, we have all these different kinds of extreme, disastrous, like emergencies, which eventually leads to the price of food, for example, increasing a lot more than it was before. The problem of water, energy, like all these basic necessities which we need to survive. And I think that's where artificial intelligence can be very crucial in battling or tackling the problem of climate change. Like in order to improve, for example, energy efficiency, or help us use renewable resources, renewable energies better. And I think this would eventually lead to fighting the problem of inflation, which is definitely a lot worse in different kinds of economies. Like if you talk about maybe developing economies or some places where people don't even have access to the basic needs of, like, for example, clean water. And the bad thing is, or the thing that hurts me the most when I say this is that people who have contributed the least towards climate change are the ones suffering the most. And yeah, and that's why I think if we can use artificial intelligence like technology, like other 4.0 technologies like remote sensing or any technology towards it, it would be really nice. And I have been working with it, as I mentioned before, um, which basically helped us identify some key carbon sinks in the world, like the Amazon rainforests or the mangrove forests in India, in Sundarbans, and how if we plant more trees there and we take care of the trees that's already there, how it can eventually, like contribute towards carbon sequestration and also contribute a lot towards the upliftment of lives of the people surrounding and dependent on it, because these forests, they basically provide livelihood to a lot of people who are very directly and indirectly dependent on it. So yeah, so I think it's an important emerging trend out there right now. What do you think about it, Irene?
Perfect, perfect. I am basically an observer, and I have a privilege to talk a lot of smart people, all right, who work in this area. So absolutely, I do see a lot of interest, of course, huge interest from investors' perspective, right? ESG, new companies forming as we speak, right? Researchers working on it, practitioners, right? Business leaders, and again, business community investing. So I am excited about like seeing how these practical applications of technology that actually still in the lab, right? How people, the smart pioneers, the brave pioneers, testing it and reporting the results. We have to be skeptical in terms of there was a lot of hype about early results, AI in healthcare in particular.
Yeah.
Okay, and we hear from years on, we hear that not everything, of course, realized, and that's the risk that, of course, those pioneers are taking. So to me, we will still watch with excitement what's really possible. But again, from practical standpoint, the adoption, it's got to be also orchestrated with a lot of considerations, and just turning this hype into realistic results. Okay, that's something I'm very interested in. So if you hear about progress here and there, happy to share, of course, everywhere. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Getting into exciting topic, another big one, artificial general intelligence. Okay, how close are we? AI is still a lot of math. It's still a lot of human help. It's a lot of work, as you know, to start the AI initiative, right? To progress and to reach results, to demonstrate results. So I'm in, again, very practical, very, I would say, business-like terms. AGI, is it already here?
Yeah, so as you said, I think very rightly, like a lot of acquaintances or a lot of our interactions with artificial intelligence is not as smart as we would like it to be, even now. Like when it comes to AGI, it's a more general representation of or more close to human thinking. Like if we can, like have something with a lot more human cognitive abilities or skills, and when they are generally faced with some task that is unfamiliar to them, they would still be able to, like work it out and find a solution, like basically we humans do every day in our lives. So it's, as you said, it's still like a shiny toy, because I think it needs to have a lot more abilities that in general the systems right now have in AI, like for example abstract thinking, which is not as common, like creativity, or if you talk about motor skills, natural language understanding, transfer learning. So these things, like it's not as commonly used as like as we maybe think or we want it to at the moment, I think. So yeah, I think it's still a shiny toy out there. We do have some examples, like if you look at chatbots or Siri. So they are like, but still they also are most of weak AI out there. I think it's still, AGI is still like a shiny concept right now, a shiny toy, which we need to put in a lot of effort. And in my opinion, when it comes to AGI, it needs a lot more interaction between computational neuroscientists and like the developers, the people who like actually work and develop on the model as well, because um, yeah, it just needs to. And I also think that when we come to a point which is close to AGI, or like a model which can abstract, which can think abstract, which is like more creative sensory perceptions, etc. I think at that point the concept of artificial empathy is also very important in order to distinguish between like the options, the choices of its making, and how it's going to affect like the end user, for example. um, because I think when we come close to AGI, it possibly could be useful, like very useful to medical cases. For example, like I came across a study some time back, which was how artificial empathy could be very useful in treating patients, for example, with dementia, like how AGI could provide care to them. And because it's like extremely draining for the nurses or for the caretaker in general, so their AGI could come into place. But then there needs to be a very strong angle of artificial empathy, and I think it's still a little too far. But obviously a lot of work is being done, and maybe we see it sooner than we expect. But right now a lot of work needs to be done. In my
Yep, yep. Speaking of evolution, right? Speaking of evolution of AI, where do you see we're gonna go and what's reachable within, let's say, 5 years?
When it comes to evolution of AI, uh, I think one thing is that we have come very far from maybe what we would have expected. Like I think when I was in my school years, and I came across the concept, and I'm like, okay, this sounds very interesting. And there wasn't a lot of material out there. Right now, like if you want to build a basic model, you basically have everything available on the internet, starting from the algorithm to the data set, and any help you need within that. So that's really amazing, in my opinion. And I think in the future, artificial intelligence will definitely help a lot of industries. Like, um, if you talk about healthcare, for example, healthcare is actually one of the very prominent reasons of why I was interested in artificial intelligence to begin with. Like, that's also something that I really, like enjoy working with, and I think it's very crucial. And technology can be like, or actually already is a major game changer in the field. So there are like I was working with computational neuroscience as my bachelor thesis, and there I worked on BCP and an algorithm, which is like Bayesian propagation, confidence, like neural network kind of thing. And it works within like recurrent neural networks and transfer learning, like deep learning algorithms. So those algorithms, if we, like work with them in more, I did a lot of the work in abstract condition, but if you do a lot of that work in real conditions, for example, it can even help you like detect if someone's suicidal, or like help with schizophrenia or some other disorders. So like if I look at those things, it's definitely very promising, and I think it looks good. So the evolution definitely is really good. And yeah, like different solutions, like I think I came across a solution from Path AI, and they right now develop these machine learning technologies and tools which assist pathologists to make like more accurate diagnosis, which is very useful because these can help in reducing errors in some like major diagnosis like cancer, or some neural disorders that are pretty difficult to detect. And yeah, like, and for example, like even recommendation of drugs or treatments, like a preliminary a way of determining, and the diagnosis, like early diagnosis. So yeah, like if we look at that, it's pretty promising. even in the field of climate change right now. So there's this thing called um, okay, it might take a little time to explain, but yeah.
Please go ahead. Mhm.
So when I worked within climate change, I was mostly working with small landowners. So usually, um, what happens is, if there's like maybe a small landowner and they are doing some sustainable practices, for example, like taking care of plants, trees, and they are planting different trees, anything, and they can get the amount of land, the area of land verified, to find out how much carbon is stored or sequestered in that area, and they can get paid for that amount of carbon. Like for example, the concept of carbon offsetting, which is pretty common now. Like there's a huge chain of like a big company or someone who's who is emitting a lot of carbon, and they can like offset their carbon using some carbon credits. So most of the process is pretty manual, so people have to fly in, they like measure the trees for the height and girth, and they extrapolate the number of trees, for example, in a biodiversity. Now, that's not extremely accurate. Plus, that's very expensive for small landowners, and that's why they kind of left behind like almost 500 million small landholders in the world. They can't get to this, and they can't get incentivized for their carbon sequestration process, because this is extremely expensive for them. And even the provider, the people who do the verification, it's extremely expensive for them to do as well. And they would only do it if it's profitable for them. So it leaves out 500 million small landowners in the world. Now, if we use artificial intelligence there, which I was working on, like developing a model, and we have a patent pending on the work that we did. So we can use like 2D images and 3D images, satellite images, out like the 14 bands, and some 3D information like digital elevation models, or surface models, and we can get like a height girth approximation, the count, etc., which can basically help us um, verify the carbon sequestration for these small landowners at a very cheap cost. And this would be like very profitable for them as well. Also, everyone needs to be paid for what they're doing. I strongly believe in that. And if someone's doing such an important work, they need like food on their table the end of the day. And that's why I think it's like extremely noble and extremely important. There's definitely this issue of a lot of carbon emission when you are training the model, but there are some evolutions around that as well. So yeah, so I think it definitely looks really good. Again, a lot of ethics needs to be involved around this. If we're working with climate change, for example, there's a lot of policies. Different countries, you're looking at different policies. Like in EU, we have a lot of rules and policies regarding this. And in different countries as well, even in healthcare, the different healthcare guidelines which need to be taken care of, and we need to make sure that we like respect them while we're working on it. But yeah, it looks pretty good to me, future.
Good, good, good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the example because, of course, it's more relatable. So, this is precious. Why don't we move to technical careers? You're a mentor. So, this is amazing. I mean, to me, you're a young person who achieved a lot already. And this is fantastic that you're reaching out and helping others. So, can you tell us little bit about that work?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that and I think you would agree as well, is that when we work in technology, or I think anything in the world, but especially technology, is something that's changing every single day. The more you talk to people about it, or like the more you interact, collaborate, the more you learn. And I think it's the same thing about mentorship as well. I think a mentor-mentee relationship is something that both party benefit from the most. Like I have been working with some really amazing people as my mentees, and I think I learned equally from them as I have, as they would have probably from me. Um, so yeah, and this could help them in a lot of ways because I have some experience in maybe like like getting a job in the field, or some experience working on a particular project for 2 years. And I can share that, and definitely failed a lot of times, which makes really good examples and lessons to share with people. I got an opportunity to mentor with the Google Women Developer Academy in Europe this year, and that was to actually help them train more on career transition within technology. Like maybe if someone's in a software engineering field, if they want to go to data science, data engineering, or more hardcore like research AI positions. So with that, and also with public speaking, because I think you probably know the problem too. Like most of the people speaking are not female. So if you look like maybe a panel, it's usually I think it's I read the stats somewhere, and maybe like there's only 25%, which is like an all female panel, or even less. About 60% of the panels out there don't even have female representation out there. So it's also to assist or actually help females to understand that it's okay. Like everyone makes mistakes, and it's okay. Just step out and speak up. And yeah, so a couple of those things. And I also got to work with some startups, like some pre-incubation startups, working within the space of artificial intelligence, where we discussed if they have a team maybe of software engineers, how they can efficiently work with like cloud environments, or how they can delegate tasks based on who's good at what, who's good at what task, and how they can get more of artificial intelligence expertise, like even like maybe working with freelancers within the field, like help them reach out to some freelancers, or even the use of no code low code tools out there. So different things which have been pretty interesting.
You are a researcher and you're a practitioner, but at the same time, it's so important and crucial even to see that linkages to people who are in the industry. And you're absolutely right. Many experts, before they really become the public speaking authorities, right? Many experts are so proud of what they do day to day, and it's so hard to make them speak. And yes, there are bloggers out there, but still not enough. And that's what we're trying to do here at SaugaTalks, to open up that ivory tower a little bit. So many of experts are very generous with their time, like yourself. So I will encourage everyone, if you're interested in technology, if you are inspired by Smriti's work, reach out to me, reach out to Smriti. I will put the links in, because of course all these horizontal communications and networking ever more important. So thank you for all the work. Yeah, for all the work you're doing there. What about some, I don't know, anecdotal lesson learned, all right, in terms of a mentorship? Okay, what are the questions mentee are mostly interested in? Mhm.
I think a couple of questions that I've heard a lot is that, like the common question that if they need to know everything, like, if you Google how, like skills needed to be a data scientist, you get a list of probably like 150 different things. So, a question that, if they need to know everything before getting into a job, and I think it's important that everyone knows or understands that, like you can't know everything. And I think that even if someone has been working for, 20, 30 years, it's highly unlikely that even they know everything. So that's completely okay. Everyone's here to learn. And especially if it's maybe like an entry level job. I think if you have an understanding of the basic concepts, that's enough. Like if you can maybe put them in place and um, like understand how things work, I think that's enough, because you learn a lot on the job. And that's important to know. A lot of people don't apply to jobs because they think that they don't
Mhm.
know everything that's required.
Not good enough. Not good enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and I totally can relate to what you're saying, because I do help people who reach out to me, and of course, I'm trying to share and again make the best of what I know. Absolutely important, and I say to people, you know what? No one is a perfect candidate. Okay, if you look at the job opening, and of course, company wants to list everything in there because they look good by doing so, right? That we only take capable, very qualified candidates. At the same time, of course, you have to know what you're really, really good at. Okay, you cannot be evenly balanced everywhere. We are not robots yet. Okay, so in the sense, just think hard. I mean, this is to our audience, of course, not to you, Smriti. Think hard what's the best of your abilities and where you want this conversation to go. Because I think smart leader, smart manager on the other side, they will see that, hey, I can use this person because this person is so good at this. And if it's not right job, then don't try to get into this because you're not going to be happy. Again, another thing, when you get a rejection, good, move on. Don't you find this relatable?
Getting rejected to a job is definitely okay. I think everyone's had a lot of rejections. I know I have. So, so that's completely okay. And right now, we have been seeing so many layoffs on LinkedIn. So basically, it's not the end of the world. I think, like how you are as a person and how much you're willing to learn. That's the end of the day, the most important thing, in my opinion. And the other thing that I also hear a lot is, especially like mostly coming from women actually who have worked with us, um, that people outside the field, or people who haven't worked in artificial intelligence, data science, um, they often or sometimes think that artificial intelligence is like a more individualistic field, like you have to do everything by yourself. And when you know how it works, it's basically a village working to make a project happen. So yeah, so that's probably another thing that's
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And again, if there are some naive candidates that do think that they're going to become divas of the business, you're really qualified candidate, you may have your master's, you may have your PhD, but you cannot do anything alone, anything. All right. You will still be surrounded by tons of engineers, by tons of business users, by tons of testers. No matter what you know, all right, people is not gonna work with you if you are not, I don't like the word team player, but unfortunately this is like best describing it. And you don't have to be team player all the time. You can hold your own, of course, knowledge, your own areas of expertise for sure, but you have to be aware what others are doing. No one is an island. How about that? Yep, yep. And people see if you're not cooperating, if you are holding knowledge to yourself, if for whatever reason, right, you think you're better than others, you're not gonna stay long. Doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are.
exactly. I think the end of the day, everyone wants to be around someone who like makes them feel better or good. Like no one wants to be, I don't know, like looked down, or yeah. The end of the day, everyone's good at something, and I think it's important to accept like someone might not be good at coding, but they might be good at something that like I have no clue about. So everyone has their thing, and it's important we work together, especially right now when everything's changing and the world is extremely collaborative at this point. Like um, I have a friend who works very closely with like testing machines like green batteries, and they are working very closely with programming and data scientists. So the data scientists who work there also need them to understand more about the batteries or the machines. So it's extremely collaborative, like different fields they work together, and it's crucial based on the challenges that we have and the problems we are trying to solve. So it's important to, not look anyone down based on whatever they know right
Absolutely,
now.
because everyone hears these anecdotes about these super qualified, overqualified stars that no one wants to hire or no one wants to continue working with. So let's warn those who really, really capable, but hopefully with their level of intelligence, they already know that, hey, human intelligence and emotional intelligence even more important sometimes than what we know, don't you think?
Exactly. I mean, I've been watching a lot of Shark Tank recently. So I came across like a YouTube video where I think some video which Mark Cuban was explaining like who would, he hire. And he said he would hire someone who's good at what they do, who know what they're working on. But if it comes to laying off people, he would like if he has to choose between people to work with and they have to lay someone off, it would eventually come to how easy they are to work with. So I think that's an important lesson out there.
And again, we don't need to give up who we are. We don't need to be people pleasing all the time. This is
Yeah.
not what we're talking about at
Mhm.
all. Really, be proud of who you are. I mean, absolutely. But we have to be aware, self awareness, and we have to be aware of people around us. And with that, wow, we're unstoppable. Thank you so very much. Fantastic talk today. In conclusion, can we leave the audience? I always ask my guests to leave the audience with few takeaways. Okay, we did talk about big trends. We talked about adoption. We did talk about industry, right? AI industry evolution and even AGI. So technical careers, right? Few takeaways you think our audience will benefit from.
So one thing that I would like to say is that at least for me, that really worked out is I tried a couple of different things before I decided that this is what I want to do, for example. So it's always good to explore some things, and right now it can be a little confusing. Like um, sometimes people like I get inbox messages in my inbox saying that they want a job in artificial intelligence, and they don't really understand what they're talking about. A lot of synonyms out there, like understand if it's related to AI, understand what artificial intelligence jobs are, machine learning roles are, data science, data analysis. Like there are like 10 different roles right there. So I think it's important to understand what they actually want to do, and these roles or positions can be very different from each other. And so I think it's important to invest some time to understand what you really want to do, or what you really want to work for, and that's one thing. Because it goes a long way. It might take some time, but it goes a long way. The other thing is that I think we discussed this. We discussed this earlier as well, but no one knows everything, and there's no need of like getting intimidated by things out there. I mean, I do get intimidated myself, but at the end of the day, it's important to calm yourself down and understand that everyone's learning. And if you get into the field, you will be probably learning every single day. But there's nothing that you can't, like can't not do with efforts and hard work. Sometimes less, sometimes more, but everything can be done if you really want to. That's something that I want to say. And the third thing is probably that inclusion and diversity is extremely important. We talk about collaboration and how collaboration is a crucial part of development or evolution of technology, AI, and it cannot be done without inclusion, without diversity, without having different people's opinions, different fields, for example, different ethnicities. um, you come across different problems, different point of views, which is extremely important if we want to build a global problem. So I think these three things I would like to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Smriti, for your time today. Thank you very much.